Well, hey there, everybody. Welcome to another fun-filled edition of Campfire Tales. And tonight, we may be covering one of our biggest stories yet. One I knew eventually I was going to slip in somewhere, and this seemed like the perfect week to do it. First, as always, we have Jeff. How are you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing fantastic.
Jeff, can I ask you a question?
No.
I'm asking anyways. If you're laying in bed, right?
Okay.
You and your wife, and you're sleeping, and you wake up and you see her, and I quote, violently levitating above the bed while the garage door opens and closes, would you be concerned?
What time of the month is it?
It's every morning at like
That might be
3:15 a.m.
yeah. Well, might be a little bit
every night 3:15 a.m.
Yeah, it doesn't seem very very safe. So
It doesn't.
I mean, I'm more concerned about the garage door opening. So, to be honest with you, yeah, I don't want no neighborhood cats getting in there or anything.
That's true. They always say when a cat pees on one thing, it's not pee on everything.
It's hard to deal with.
Fair enough. And then of course we also have Dave. How you doing, Dave?
Hey,
Dave, can I ask you a question?
why sure.
Let's say you start to notice that every time you and your son look in one of your windows, you see a pig-headed beast with glowing red eyes staring back at you, making weird faces. Would you be concerned?
Okay, a lot going on in this question.
Yes.
So let me clarify.
Yeah.
Are me and my son on the outside looking in the window of our house at a pig inside?
You see it either way. If you're looking in the house or if you're looking out of the house.
Oh, so it's a glass hog. So it's not really anywhere except in the glass window.
Potentially. Or it's just running outside when you come in and running inside when you go out.
Oh, no, our experience with the glass hog is that it's really kind of stuck between the two panes of glass.
Okay.
So, yeah. The only thing you can do for that is, a good fumigation. Maybe burn a little thyme, not sage, but thyme.
Time.
Burn a little thyme in the house.
Okay. Would you wonder why it was only you and your son that could see it? Would you try to address that?
No, it's a guy thing. I mean, let's just leave it at that.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Wait, last week, we talked about Devil's Backbone. Really good ghost story from Del Toro. So I thought, man, what's a really good ghost story here in the States? And then I was like, man, there's a story that I knew eventually we'd talk about. And this seems as good as any. We're going to be talking about Amityville tonight, folks. One of the most famous hauntings in America. That's got a little bit of terror, a little bit of love, and a little bit of the most eccentric couple that traveled these great 50 states and abroad. Are either of you familiar with the Amityville story?
I am.
I'm not. I know of it. I'm not super familiar with it though.
Did you ever see the movie when you were young?
Yeah.
Did it scare you?
Not really. It's kind of lame.
Jeff, I don't think you're scared of anything.
Well, I mean, some stuff, but
I mean, except for maybe that pant leg that might come back.
Well, that's have come back to haunt me one day. That's for sure.
I'm telling you right now, you have to promise me. I don't care what time of day it is. If you ever walk in a room and there's a lone pant leg just folded up on the floor,
sitting there, yeah,
take pictures and call me.
That's actually kind of freaky. Like that would I think probably
Dave would drive up from Tennessee to come see it.
Well, the chances that I wasn't the person who laid it out there are
pretty slim. Yeah.
How would you get a hold of this pant leg?
I don't need his pant leg. I just need a pant leg.
Yeah, but like Jeff, did this occur like in the 90s?
No, this was like the early 2000s.
Oh, wow. So yeah, you could buy any pant leg.
Yeah.
In my mind, it's still an acid wash though, right, Jeff?
Well, I literally was thinking that. I was literally thinking that.
No, it wasn't that cool in the 90s. I mean, he's grabbing
You never rocked acid wash jeans?
No,
Oh wow.
I was more into the grunge scene, so
Oh.
So they were already torn. They were probably hanging on by a thread before.
Oh, right, yeah. I may have been trying to enhance my pants with grunge cuts, and maybe that's what happened to him.
I think that's my favorite thing you've ever said on this podcast. I maybe was trying to enhance my pants.
Yep. Well,
they should write a song about that.
Yeah.
Enhancing my pants.
Most people use socks, but Jeff tears the leg off.
I just use rip one leg off.
I just see like high school Jeff. Everybody's like, something odd about that guy. He only ever has one pant leg. I see you wearing crow makeup for some reason.
That's a little weird.
That's the part he taps out on, not the one-legged pant.
Crow makeup's a little much. I mean,
I'm not gonna wear crow makeup, but one pant leg.
Yeah,
tell me. They're like he's always carrying a picture of baby Jesus in a baby car seat. Oh man.
Got a stuffed ape with a rifle.
Yeah. They're like, we don't know what they're like when we watch Planet of the Apes, he's always rooting for the apes.
He's taking vigorous notes while he's
they go to the beach and Jeff just stares at the edge of the water screaming, "Curse you, jellyfish!"
I hate jellyfish. I don't want to.
You know, I honestly the of all the cryptids we cover, Jeff, I'm trying to think maybe you might be a cryptid.
I don't know.
More I learn about you.
Yeah, I do have some quirks that may qualify me. So
I don't know if I would declare that on a public podcast there, Eli, because you might disappear after this.
Who, me or Jeff?
You've gotten too close. No, you.
Oh, I've got too close to the truth.
Yeah, you've called out Jeff in a public forum. You may go the way of the Mothman after this.
Listen, you know what? With everything going on in the news between like AI speeding up and like NASA's literally trying to figure out how to put an AI hub on the moon to control satellites, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Maybe disappearing in whatever Jeff's cryptid plot would be might be
best. Yeah,
might be the better fate than what will probably end up happening to me.
Huh?
I mean, I'm just saying, if a dead president shows up with an animal head at your door, maybe don't open it.
I don't think I would, anyways. Just so I couldn't give you the satisfaction of having to admit that George Washington is still alive and is the money man.
I don't think we need you to admit it. I think
that's just
clear at this point.
Nobody's disputing it at this point.
I can't wait for you guys to turn this story around. Then I can't wait. So Amityville is probably one of the most famous haunted house stories in the U.S. It was huge in the media. It went on to become a best-selling book that is still very popular today, and as well spawned off various movies. One that has been good, and the rest that have been bad. But they just keep making them. The house is located in Amityville, New York, which is a part of Long Island. In November 1974, Ronald DeFeo Jr. one night went in with a hunting rifle and murdered his whole family at 3:15 a.m. His parents and his 4 siblings. The thing that was crazy about the case was everyone that he murdered was found laying in their beds, still in like sleeping position. Wow. And it surprised the investigators because none of them appeared to have woke, and they found it unlikely, as he was highly intoxicated at the time, that the fact that they wouldn't have woke and that he could move that fast between the rooms and do it. But that's where the evidence pointed out. When they arrested him, everyone was trying to figure out why he did it. The police believed that he was connected to a gang or a mob and that he needed money very quickly. And so he basically thought this was the best way to get his inheritance faster so he could pay off his debts. His own lawyers had him tested, said that he had a history of mental illness and that he was known throughout periods of time in his life to state that he heard voices. But if you asked Mr. DeFeo, he claimed that a demon was possessing and influencing him and forced him to do it, and he didn't want to. But since this was the 70s, and there wasn't a lot of great real estate laws, they quickly tidied stuff up, cleaned everything up, and then precisely 13 months later, they sold it to the Lutz family. 13 months.
That's a motivated seller.
The Lutzes had no clue. They had no clue this happened. They just bought the house. 13 months. They went through everything. 13 months. I don't think they could do that nowadays.
I mean, how much of this is actually on the Lutzes that they didn't do any of their due diligence? That just a year earlier, people were violently murdered in this house.
Well,
I think I would have uncovered that.
So let me ask you a question, Dave. When you bought your house, did you investigate if anybody's murdered in your house?
100%.
I did not. When I bought my house,
you didn't do a public record check?
Oh yeah, but like I wasn't specifically.
Well, that would show up on the. I mean, that would show up on the public record.
That's true. You know, some states,
unless nobody knew about it.
That's true.
Then there's bigger questions to ask.
Yeah, it's like,
you know, there are states now, partially because of this story and like a few similar others, that there are some states that require a realtor to disclose, one, if there was any murders or deaths that occurred in the house that weren't natural, and two, if the house was ever claimed to be haunted. Not every state, but some states do require that.
I know our state requires you to publicly make people aware of if the house was ever used to cook meth in, because I think there's some of those chemicals that you'll never get out.
Yeah. And like there's some of them like that like create pockets if they're like in the basement or the attic that could blow up. So that'd be a surprise.
Yeah. Ruh-roh.
But I have to add, if your realtor told either one of you guys, like, some people have claimed this house is haunted, would you still buy the house? Would you take the chance?
I would do my own research. Like I might be intrigued more than repelled by that, but I would want to know sort of the history behind that.
Okay.
Depends on what kind of deal I'm getting on the house, you know what I mean?
If they're like, listen, it used to be haunted, or they claimed it's haunted because that we took 20 grand off top.
Yeah, I mean, that's, you know.
You wouldn't be worried about being haunted?
I mean, I can be pretty difficult to live with. So,
so you're just gonna basically be more difficult than whatever the ghost is.
Yeah. I mean, that
the ghost slaves.
Yeah.
All right. Fair enough.
What Jeff is saying is he is the one that knocks.
Yeah.
Oh, he's just like, I just see Jeff like they're like, oh, but he's like, shut up, shut up. I'll beat the shit out of you. Where's my pant leg?
Have a haunted pant leg in the attic. Maybe that's where I went. Maybe it's haunting somebody's house. You know what I mean?
They're forever cursing. Whose pant leg did this belong to?
It's just always, it ends up in the washing and the dryer all the time. Like nobody can know whose it is.
In the house we live in now, which we bought 3 years ago, it's an old, like it was built in the 60s, sort of mid-century modern house. So it has a bunch of little different nooks and crannies and closets and stuff. And I literally had the insidious experience of, we were putting stuff away when we moved in and finding an old 8mm projector and a box of films stuffed in back of one of the old dark closets in the basement.
Did you watch it?
100%. I was fully disappointed.
You know what? I feel like like that's a double-edged sword, because either you're gonna see some like scary shit, or you're about to see some homemade sex tapes.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, it's a win-win either way, right? It's all.
I don't know, marketable. You see people that make homemade sex tapes shouldn't be taping themselves, you know,
especially on 8mm.
Yeah,
the lighting's never right. It's all out of focus. From what I hear, from what
you hear, right?
It's a word on the street.
Did you keep the?
No, we knew the people who we bought it from, because we didn't buy it from a realtor. We literally bought it from the owners. So we just called them and said, we got your family films here. By the way, you might want to shave a little more often.
What about you, Jeff? When you bought your house, did you find anything weird?
No, not really. But like, you know, here's a weird story. So we took a tour of the house before we bought it, because there was an old lady that lived here and her sons were selling the house. and she was still in the house when we were looking around at it, and we were just kind of talking to her. We're like, oh, we're kind of excited to make an offer on the house here, blah blah blah. And she's like, what house are you buying? Apparently, she was going to a nursing home and didn't know it. So the house, so her sons were putting her in a nursing home, and we bought the house out from underneath her. So.
And they hadn't told her yet.
They had no.
Holy crap!
Well, I don't know if maybe she was senile or what, but
did you tell her
it was very awkward? Well, no, we were like, we gotta go. Like, you know what I mean? So
seems like there's a bigger conversation.
Yeah, there's something else you guys need to talk about here.
Oh, see, my house is like there's just gross stuff we found, like. The bathroom upstairs, the guy that the son and his mom, they're like the original owners.
Yeah.
And like when his mom went to nursing home, he like apparently wanted to make this look like a Vegas showroom because like the one room had metallic playing card wallpaper. And then the upstairs bathroom, he found like old hand drawn porn, like French porn.
Wow.
Wallpaper. And that was like in our upstairs bathroom. So it was like always like naked ladies like bending over and stuff.
Wow.
So Jack from the Titanic had done some sketches for him?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Jack must have swam ashore.
Draw me like your French girls.
We bought his house. And it was like all around the tub and stuff too. Very odd.
I'm sure Mary loved that.
It was one of the first things she said I had to tear down.
I think he missed the prime opportunity of leaving that stuff up. That's what I think.
Yeah, it was like I was like, we might as well leave it. And she's like, I want it all tore down. I was like, well, that's a shame.
She's a party pooper.
It was a party pooper. That's some party pooping right there. Well, the Lutzes, they didn't have me that. They moved in their house, thought it was great. They lived in it for exactly 28 days. And then on the 28th day, they left in a hurry in the middle of the night, not taking any of their belongings, just to close on their back and never returned to the house again. So they only have 28 days. Now, a lot of people...
That's when that first mortgage payment was due.
Yeah, they're like, we're gone.
Well, it's funny because one of the things, some of the doubters of this story, one of the things they claimed was that they, like, this house was, for, like, even back in the 70s, it was expensive to live in Long Island. And that this was an expensive house. It was a big house. And that they really couldn't afford it. And then when they realized, like, payments coming up, they were like, it's haunted.
Yeah.
We can't make this payment. There's ghosts.
There's ghosts.
But that's what they did. So they moved in, and you had George Lutz, who was a stepfather. He has his wife and then her kids from a previous marriage. They moved in, and the story is crazy because, like, the things that happened and, like, the order they happened in, and mind you, this was all very quick. But first they started claiming that they started smelling weird odors around the house. Which sometimes Mary smells those. I'm like, oh, must be the dogs or something. I definitely didn't fart right here.
Definitely didn't crop dust this entire living room just now.
But it was strange odors. Then they noticed that the walls and keyholes started oozing green slime.
Gross.
That's a burst sewage pipe is what you got.
Yeah,
there.
that's
bad news either way.
Yeah. And then random cold spots started appearing around the house. Like they'd walk into a room or a spot in a room. They'd be freezing cold.
Bad insulation.
I was going to say this house was built in the 1700s.
Yeah.
Like there were times like it was kind of a warmer time of year, and they're like, like cold spots kept showing up in like in their bedroom and stuff that George was constantly feeding the fire to keep them warm because they were freezing. Which seems like I would be like maybe we should stay here because there's green ooze coming out of places. I'd be thinking like mold, but
yeah, that's a little bit.
But that's what happened. Then things started getting weirder. Their garage door would constantly open and close on its own. And then things started turning almost violent. One day, Mrs. Lutz was in the kitchen cooking when a butcher knife kind of came out of the knife block and came close to her on its own.
Didn't hit her, just kind of like it was close to her.
Yeah, like close to her. Not did hit her.
Okay. Okay.
But it was close to her. It's like it fell out of the block close to her. But like the only way that could have happened was something like a spear or something had to have like.
Yeah, the devil. That's definitely the devil. That's the only way a knife gets close to you.
Well, you say that, Dave, but then very quickly, George and his son started claiming that when they were outside, they would look and see this pig-headed figure with glowing red eyes in the house staring out the window. They'd run in the house, nothing would be there. And then sometimes when they're in the house, they look out the window, they would see it staring in the window from outside. And even if they were like upstairs, they would see an upstairs window. Like it was just standing right outside the window.
Seems peculiar.
Would George send Elroy out to check it out? See what's going on?
No, I don't think he would. George was looking, you know. It's like, I can't let you go fight this man bear pig. You know, I'll take care of it.
Isn't that the first reason to have kids?
Oh, to send them out to deal with the scary shit?
Go check out stuff.
Yeah.
But
Hey, there's something really cool outside. Go check it out.
I just see Dave seeing like a masked like Jason Voorhees walk across his lawn. He like looks at his kids, goes, "You guys want to go see if I left something out on the lawn?"
Go see what that guy wants.
And you're just like staring out the window, like, "What's going to happen here?"
Nope. He's not a good guy. Okay,
Nope.
now we know.
Okay. All right. Well, just walk it off, son. Just walk it off.
Yeah, you might want to run.
But then things started getting violent. George claimed that he was constantly in a bad mood. He was feeling very violent. The kids were fighting. And then a lot of kids claimed that they were pushed and slapped. Daughter said her hair was pulled. Wife said she was slapped a couple times by something they couldn't see. And then George, one night he started waking up every night at 3:15 a.m. And at first he'd just wake up. He didn't know why. But then he would wake up at 3:15 a.m. and he'd say something would be forcing him down on the bed as he watched his wife, what he described as violently levitating above the bed. So I don't know if that means she's like levitating, like jerking around, or if like when she levitated, she was like real quick, like lifted up. Then he claimed there was nights he would hear noises. His children would be violently levitating and falling in the bed, then levitating again. And then he claimed like sometimes this would happen and the garage doors would be opening and closing, which I think that would just be the more annoying part.
Yeah, for sure.
Because that wastes electric. And I can't imagine the 70s electric car or garage doors were very good.
It's pretty swanky, yeah.
Yeah, probably creaky sounding. And it got to a point where like they felt such a presence. They kept seeing this pig thing. Everyone's violently levitating. There's green ooze everywhere. So they called the local church. They asked the priest to come bless the house because they thought they would take care of it. So the priest shows up. He goes in the first bedroom, starts to bless the house. When he says he heard a loud voice yell, "Get out!" So he promptly leaves. Told the Lutzes, I wouldn't sleep in that room, and then went home.
Wow. Yeah.
Makes sense to me.
That seems reasonable.
So, didn't try to clear it out anymore. Didn't try to do anything else. Just was like, yeah, I just wouldn't sleep in that room, and good luck. He's like, the house don't want me here, is what he said.
Huh?
Which I gotta say, like, if you're a priest, you're supposed to like help cleanse a house. You must not be very good if you hit the first room, you hear one creepy thing, you're like, nothing I can do here.
And that's lunch, folks.
Nothing I can do here. Just don't sleep in that room. Just don't go in that room. You'll be fine. They're like, did you check out the other rooms? No, the house didn't want me in there. So
yeah,
I'm just assuming.
Don't come in. So
But see what I need to see. Mm-hmm. You needed me to tell you that the house was haunted.
Yep.
My story started in 30 minutes on TV. So the house is haunted. Congratulations. Have a good one.
Like we need an old priest and a young priest. This isn't going to work.
I'm middle-aged priest.
Yeah,
this really isn't my thing. I would watch a TV show though with this priest where he gets called to these places and like he just promptly always goes in the house, just goes, Nothing I can do for you.
Nothing I can do for you.
Nothing I can do for you. I just don't turn the lights on. The lights are flickering.
Hilarious.
Just don't turn them on.
Like by season 3, he's like the family's waiting out on the porch for the priest to show up to tell him what's going on, and he just drives by and yells out, "Haunted!"
Yeah. Your house doesn't even want me to stop at the driveway. I'm going to the Golden Crow. So, feeling pretty hopeless and the activity ever increasing, they got so scared that after the 28th day, in the middle of the night, they had enough of the waking up and the levitating and the ooze, and the garage door and the smells and the one butcher knife, and they left. They left and probably moved to California. Now,
to the hills of Beverly.
To the hill. I don't know about the hills of Beverly. I have a feeling it was more like a trailer park somewhere because they were defaulting on a mortgage. But they left. They by this point, like, because like it was kind of getting out of the town about like the weird stuff going on in this house, and like they're acting weird, and like they're hearing these stories. The neighbors are complaining because their fucking garage door just opens all night long.
Yeah.
They're having some trouble selling. 5 months go by, and a little New England Paranormal Society hears about it, and they come to save the day. And for the second time in Campfire Tales history, in walks Ed and Lorraine Warren.
Nice.
Old Ed and Lorraine Warren. Now, Jeff, I can't...
Favorite old farts.
Jeff, that might be when you were in the hills fighting the troll people, but were you on the episode when we talked about Annabelle and the Warrens?
I think so.
Are you familiar with the Warrens?
I know of. I've heard the name and stuff before.
Yeah. So, just as a reminder, the Warrens were this married couple, Ed and Lorraine. There's movies about them now. The Conjuring series, Annabelle. There's a new Conjuring filming right now. Conjuring 4. The Devil Slapped Me Silly or something. I don't know. The names just get worse and worse. Those movies. But they were this couple that Ed claimed to have thought he had a paranormal experience with a ghost, and it was a demon, as a child. So he spent his life fighting demons. He actually, even though he never went to school for it, he became a self-proclaimed demonologist who worked very closely with the Catholic Church, doing these investigations. His wife, Lorraine, according to them, if you believe it or not, was psychic. She could see spirits, demons, and have visions. They started this paranormal society where they traveled around the U.S. and the world. They're associated with many famous paranormal cases in the U.S. as well as England. They are very, what's the word I'm looking for? Controversial, as some people, because they would go around the media. They incorporated a bunch of books, stories. Some people claimed that they were fighting the good fight. There's also a lot of evidence that they were just grifters, and they would trick these people into writing or signing over the rights to their life for little amounts of money or almost nothing, and then making all this money from it. There's two sides to the coin, people. I'll let you decide.
Which is special because that's the first time in recorded history that such a thing has ever been tied back to the church in any way.
That's weird, right? They're normally not associated with any controversy.
Exactly.
None. Especially the Catholic Church. Clean. But Ed and Lorraine Warren, they came in. They were known for inviting themselves into this investigation, which it appears they did for this. But there's also, they were tied to the Catholic Church pretty heavily. The church would send them places. Ed could request exorcisms to be performed. He wasn't supposed to perform them. He did in some cases.
Yeah, I was going to say
he did.
That didn't last long.
If you like read any of his books or like watching his interviews, he claimed he could do light exorcisms. He just couldn't do full exorcism.
He couldn't do the full bone.
If it wasn't a full blown like terrible demonic possession, he could exorcise them.
So he could handle something, say, on the lamer side, like a donkey lady, but you can call him in to take care of something like Mothman.
Honestly, though, if you talk to him, the donkey lady was probably the gatekeeper of hell. Because with Ed, 9 times out of 10, it was the most demonic thing he ever fought. A lot of people, though, thought they only fought demons, but one of their most famous cases was a werewolf.
A what?
A werewolf.
Was this the guy who had the magic clothes, or which one? Which kind of werewolf? Remember, we're fully
that's true. That's
educated
true.
on werewolf.
This was a gentleman who, went his whole life believing he was a werewolf. He never turned into a wolf. He just, when he looked in the mirror, he saw a wolf. And so he was from England, and so the
mental
Warrens,
condition.
and he ended up like actually attacking people and hurting people, and the police had to subdue him. They arrested him for a while because he would get very violent and bark and attack people, which wolves don't really bark, but whatever.
So what did Ed do with this guy then?
Well, no, he said that it wasn't actually what werewolves were. They were possessed by wolf demons,
of course,
and that if he could make his way to America, he could exorcise them. They did not offer this guy any help, so it took him a year to save up the money to fly to Connecticut so that the Warrens could help him.
So he told the werewolf, if you can get yourself to us,
correct,
we'll yeah. Well, we're gonna get you.
That is correct.
It's a bold move.
That is correct. The Warrens also claim to have a lot of photograph and audio proof of the things they see. They very rarely ever showed and shared it. The thing that's kind of weird about the Warrens, though, is that 90% of the stuff that they did release was just orbs, as they claimed. But actually, one of their most believable photographs actually came from this case we'll talk about, the Amityville house. It was one of the few pieces of evidence that they ever actually released that was that had any validity to it, that was interesting to people. But they said they had all this evidence from the werewolf guy. They never released any of that. So they used to have a video series where you could get the videos. You pay for them. They mail them to your house. You could watch it. They would talk about their evidence. But once again, 90% of it was just orbs. And nothing from any of their good cases. But
just a side question real quick, because you brought it up. How huge would Ed and Lorraine have been in the era of YouTube? Like, I mean, they would have been like one of the biggest.
I mean, honestly, during like the set, like, because like the late 60s, they were kind of like they were kind of dabbling this more like hobbyist almost. Ed was a bus driver, and I'm pretty sure Lorraine worked for the church until they kind of had enough money that they could do this and start making money off this. They never asked for money for people for their services, but their thing was always having them. And some people they compensated. There's evidence that some they didn't, but they would have people sign story rights over so they could write books and make movies, and that's where they made all their money.
That's what you do. Yeah, that's the move.
Playbook.
There's even like one case that a lot of people get frustrated with because they convinced the mother to not only sign over their rights to the story, but her minor children. So part of that story did in one of the Conjuring films, and the children got nothing as adults because their mothers signed their rights away as children.
Yep.
The Warren Estates has made millions and millions at this point.
Isn't this what every documentarian on the planet does now? Like, sell me your trauma, and I'll tell a really compelling story about it.
Which,
trust me,
it's funny you word that way, because the other thing too is, like, if you look at in some of these cases what the families claimed happened, and then you read these books and watch these things the Warrens did, sometimes they were vastly different stories.
What? Come on now.
But at this time, in like the 70s into the early 80s, like 80s, like they were rock stars. They were all over media, doing news stories. A lot of like religious television shows and channels had them on all the time. documentaries were made about them on TV. Like
Wow.
they were kind of like at the time, like they were rock stars, and people of like most of the people who didn't take this stuff seriously took them seriously because he was a demonologist and she was psychic.
He was a demonologist in that he called himself a
he never went to school for it. But I think the big thing that helped them was the church made them valid because the church actually partnered them with priests. They had a priest on standby to perform exorcisms. They had one priest who did not really care for their shenanigans. And so then they got another priest assigned to them by the church who was all about these shenanigans. So that just added a bunch of bleed to them. But so that's the Warrens in a nutshell. But anyway, so 5 months after they left, the Warrens show up to do their investigation. And they had themselves, they had their son-in-law, I believe, and their nephew has he's had ghost shows on TV. They have a museum in their house with all these cursed and haunted objects, including Annabelle doll, which the son-in-law and nephew still run to this day. They actually just released an Annabelle whiskey, which they had the doll touch every casket of whiskey, and they only sold 666 bottles.
Oh my gosh.
Even though they also claim that if you touch this doll or its presence, you'll die. So that seems kind of
not if it's drunk. I mean,
not if it's drunk.
Yeah, not if it's drunk. That's the caveat.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
And just out of curiosity, who was it that reported that only 666 bottles? It wouldn't have been him that reported that.
Well, it was the estate and like his son-in-law and nephew. Yes. Yeah.
That told.
Why would they lie, Dave? Why would they lie? But that's
certainly not because they learned it.
No. Hey, demonologist, Dave. He had a PhD in demons. Okay.
Well, I don't know if you know this, and I don't want to toot my own horn, but Eli, I've never said this officially on the podcast, but I myself am a professional interdimensional paranormal investigator. Certified.
Oh, are you?
Yeah, fully certified.
Oh, where'd you get your certification?
Don't worry about that.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Makes sense to me. Why would you lie?
Exactly.
But so the Warrens, they spent they said they spent a night in this house. Some claim it was only a couple hours. Whatever. But while they were in the house, Ed, as soon as they walked in, Lorraine saw the demonic presence that resided in the house. Until she died, she claimed this was the most evil presence that they had ever come across. She claimed to see the spirit of Ronald DeFeo walking around the house, which is odd.
I thought you were going to say Ronald Reagan.
No, say the same thing.
Ronald DeFeo, which was odd because he was alive and in jail for murders, not dead. She also claimed to see the dead bodies of the DeFeos laying around. And she also claimed to see her priest mentor, who she claimed to see regularly, who died but was helping her from the afterlife with these cases.
Huh.
So take that for what it is. Ed said that when he was investigating the house, he was knocked down by the demon. Take that for what it is. But the compelling piece of evidence they did get, which many people have studied and still find it compelling today, is there's a famous picture of they were taking photographs of like the rooms and the houses, and there's a famous picture they took top the staircase of the of what the upstairs like foyer, like or hall or whatever you want to call it, where so you see all the bedrooms. And in the one bedroom, you saw what almost looked like the vestiges of a child kind of peeking around the doorway.
The demon boy.
The demon boy, they call him.
Huh.
A lot of people have questioned if it was faked. The picture, people have studied the picture. Doesn't seem like the picture was altered, as well as there was a lot of, like, some of the witnesses that were in the area when this happened, because like people would show up when they heard the Warrens were in town at this point, because like they were kind of becoming famous. And like there's a lot of witnesses who said like there wasn't any children around, so for them to like sneak a child in to do this may have been hard. So that's where this picture came from. But so they did a couple hours there. I believe they tried to bless and exercise the house for whatever reason, but claimed that, you know, stuff could still come back. Ed had weird theories about demons and like them being there and coming back and attaching themselves stuff. It would take me through a 3-part miniseries to explain all that. Even me, sometimes I watch it and I still don't know what the fuck he's talking about. And I've been watching and reading this stuff for a long time. But so they wrapped up after a couple hours. Contacted the Lusses, explained what happened. Wanted them to sign over the rights. But at this time, the Fayos had already sold the rights to another author who wrote a book, who they based the movie on, and everyone made quite a penny.
Everybody but the Warrens.
Everybody but the Warrens.
So there.
Well, they still made money on it. They still wrote.
I'm sure.
They still included it in one of their books. They traveled around with that picture to circulate. They still made money.
That's because they had the truth. Because they had an actual
truth.
demonologist in there.
They did have a truth. But after like the Warrens were done and like all the deals were signed, the house kind of became famous. Since they after the Warrens looked at it, they sold the house. The house has had 4 owners. None of them have ever claimed to see or do anything, but 3 of the owners did not hold on to the house very long, and the house was sold in 2017 and is still owned by the same people today. The only difference is they changed the address, the number on it, because like a road changed and they just went ahead and changed the number. Because I believe there's been many complaints of people standing in their yard and taking pictures of their house.
I was going to say, but I don't think anybody lives there, do they? I think they turned it into like a tour or a Airbnb kind of thing, didn't they?
Yeah, I don't think they live there. But due to all the publicity when the book came out, because the book was very popular, it kind of like became this like huge trend. People were in this book. It was scary. A lot of people started questioning the validity. Stuff started coming out. There was Ron DeFeo at one point, which he changed the story a lot about why he did and what happened. But at one point he came out and said that his lawyer paid off the Lutzes to make all this up, to use it as a defense for his trial for like an insanity plea, which they denied. Then in the same breath, and he turned around and said it was demons again. So like, obviously he had mental health issues. So like, who knows? His lawyer denied that was part of it. But his lawyer did come out and say, though, that he met with the Lutzes because he wanted to look at the house when he was preparing for the case. And that one night they kept offering wine. They all got drunk and made up a funny story about being the house haunted, which turned to this. He even like tried to sue them to get a cut of the money because he's like, I hope him the story, but I believe he lost. So that happened.
He didn't get an executive producer credit or anything?
He did not. But all this stuff started coming out, so people started questioning the validity of the Lutzes. But interesting enough is they end up taking a lie detector test about their experience of the houses, and they both passed. So now lie detector tests
they're 100% accurate, right?
They're not super reliable, but they passed them. And then the kind of other weird, so like that happened. Since then, there's been multiple Amityville horror movies. There's been like multiple books kind of studying the case. The Warrens released a bunch of stuff. There's been a bunch of documentary series. Bunch of everything been looked at this house. But no one from the family, kind of after like that initial media circuit and like all that, I think it got too much. Then the family kind of quit talking about it. Then like in the early 2000s, it kind of came out that they're like, well, George Lutz dabbled in the occult, so maybe this was something he did. But people that looked into it, more than likely, probably as most kids do, at one point he tried out a Ouija board, and then everybody was like, "He's an occult dabbler."
I think he like owned a book, right?
Yeah, like it was just like he had like it was like one little thing that like, which is, at the time, if people looked at my office here, they would think that I was running a cult. So like,
yeah, this was the time of satanic panic.
Yep.
So I mean, owning a book of Wicca or something like that.
But the thing that kind of sparked interest in it again, was like during the pandemic, a documentary came out where one of the Lutz children for the first time came forward, and this man, he talked about the house being haunted, but he also made claims about there being more violence and things like that in the home. But the one thing, if you watch the documentary, is that is a man who has seen some shit. Like, he is a broken man. Like, that dude, I wasn't in that house. I don't know what happened, but whatever happened, something happened. Like, if you watch this documentary, it's on Shudder. It's like Amityville, I think it's called. But like that, like that's probably been the most intriguing evidence, because like that is a man, like that is a person who's been through some shit. I've only ever seen, like, watching someone talk and like you get that vibe. The only other time I've seen that is if you watch the Finding Neverland documentary, and like the one kid who claimed
wow,
like, but he had that same thing, like where he was talking, you're like, I don't know what that guy went through. Like, I wasn't there, so I can't say for certain, but like obviously he went through something. Like, it was that same kind of like, that is a broken person.
Yeah, like you can tell he's like, seen some shit.
He is, or as the great philosophers put it, he is fucked. Like, it's but yeah, that's Amityville. That's one of America's most famous kind of haunting stories.
So I thought this episode was about the Amityville horrors.
Oh, no, not the horrors.
Disappointed.
Yeah,
he's been waiting with bated breath.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, well, there's a ghost, whatever, doll, like,
well, Jeff, listen, there's plenty of other Warren cases that I'm sure we'll talk about, and some of them get kind of spicy,
a little dicey, huh?
A little dicey. This may shock you, but I don't think the Warrens were involved in a case that weren't surrounding controversy and dicey.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's, it's kind of their MO, right?
I mean, so much so that like even now, like Ed died, I think, in like 2012. He died in 2006. Lorraine died, I think, in 2019. Right before she died, people like looking into their life and stuff like that, because there was multiple lawsuits. This may shock you. There's been multiple lawsuits with these Conjuring movies.
Wow.
About people saying they should have some
no
rights.
Way.
Yeah. And so like lawyers and stuff were digging, and then some very serious and gross allegations came out about Ed Warren. So like,
I'm sure
the dude was just gross.
I mean, and be honest, Eli or Jeff, both of you actually, if you had gone through, like, let's say you were a kid and you grew up in a super haunted, messed up house, whether it was haunting or it was just a really toxic family situation with substance abuse, whatever it was, you grew up in this super toxic environment. You survived it, grew up, and then some Hollywood studio is making hundreds of millions of dollars off your story. You're not going to be a little
might
out of shape about that.
Yep.
Well, if you figure, if we just look at the current movies, not the money, because like I said, I don't think they made any money from the first Amityville movie. They made money from some of the other ones as consultants on them. But if you look at just like the Conjuring universe, which is about them, they are prominently displayed in these films. You figure there's been 3 Conjuring movies. No, I'm sorry, 4 Conjuring movies.
4 Conjuring, yeah.
3 Annabelle movies, 2 Nun movies, the Rickety Man movie, or whatever it's called.
And that's just the Wanaverse movies. I mean,
those
think
are
of
just
all the ways they've been retold.
Those are just the Wanaverse. They made money off A Haunting in Connecticut, which is about one of their cases. There's been a couple movies based on that. They've made money. Like they have made, and then books. They have made shit ton of money off this. So much so that their family can now just make demon whiskey or gin or whatever the fuck it was and sell it.
I think the one thing we can all three agree on about the Amityville case is that the biggest tragedy of the entire situation is that it set Dutch colonial revival architecture back by decades.
Yeah.
Because nobody's buying one of those after this story gets popular.
Well, you know what's weird? Like, which I mean, I think it probably plays into effect, but like if you notice, like a lot of these cases, they're always like odd looking houses because like the Amityville house has a giant fucking circular window, in the top.
Which is it's a feature of that style.
Yeah.
The barn roof shape.
Yep. The haunting, like the Haunting in Connecticut, which was like one of their cases. Well, that was an old funeral home which also ended up going to court because the landlord was like, I told them it was an old funeral home. I don't know why all of a sudden they're saying like I didn't tell them because the family like sued. They didn't want to pay. They weren't paying rent, and he was like, that's why they weren't paying rent because it was a funeral home. But he was like, the funeral home sign's still up, so like. It's not like it was a mystery. They knew, and like, but that happened there. Then that the one in England, like the Conjuring 2 is based on, like that was like an old playhouse that old guy died in or whatever they said was demon shit. So like it was like all these like it's yeah, that's kind of interesting. You think weird. Well, except for like the first Conjuring, which was like probably like the Warren's like first big case. That nothing happened on that land, and Bathsheba was never claimed to be a witch. She was actually beloved by that community, as when she died, she left all of her land to the community. So, and she had a bunch of children. So, like,
but that story doesn't sell.
She did have 2 children that her first 2 children did die, like when they were young, of like smallpox.
Well, then she's a witch.
She had other children. She was not hung.
She weighs as much as the duck.
And the other funny thing about the Bathsheba thing that the Warrens claimed Bathsheba, this lady did it. She did not live on that land nor ever owned that land. So they actually found her name in public records when they were trying to figure out who used to live in the house. So do with that what you may.
And it's a biblical name, so they jumped all over that.
Yeah. Listen, when a young Eli, when I was first getting into this stuff, like really getting into it hard, I used to watch Paranormal State, which was like the Penn State ghost hunting club, and somehow they would always get Lorraine Warren in there, and she looked like 1,000 years old. She had a baby head even when she was 100, and her hair was 4 feet tall, always in the big weirdest haircut style. Loved her, thought she was a sweetheart. And then once I actually started looking at their cases and seeing a lot of stuff, I was like, oh,
not great.
This is something. But that's the one thing. Though I was the one thing I'll give the Warrens, they were showmen. Like people, and like a lot of these cases, like you'll find, like I said, we touch them a lot. Probably like the biggest ghost stories in the U.S. They had a hand in, and a couple in England, which England hated them.
Oh, I'm sure.
And they would vacation there all the time.
I think for me, the golden age of paranormal investigation was ghost hunters. I mean, that was the pinnacle. That's when everything was. They were
legit, like scientific about like trying to disprove it. And then somehow they got replaced with Ghost Adventures, which was the Ghost Bros.
Took a hard left.
And like their whole thing was like, if you yell and insult the ghosts, that's how you prove them. And it's like you just watch this thing with these 3 assholes in their Abercrombie and whatever jeans and their like super tight diesel shirts going, hey, ghost, you like to push people? Push me. I'll smack you around, ghost. Fuck you, ghost.
I'm scared of you. I mean, just the fact that Ghost Hunters did 16 seasons.
Yeah.
off of blurry infrared imagery
Yeah.
and vague IMF bloops for 16 seasons.
Yeah.
They sold that concept.
But I think the thing was like they were all likable. People were like, "Oh, they're doing the pursuit of science."
Yeah, they were believable as normal people. Yeah,
and then like he had these ghost birds. So much so because that guy's named Zach Baggins, like Ghost Ventures. Have you ever heard of the Demon House, like in Indiana, which is like actually like there was multiple witnesses, like doctors in a hospital. Like it's probably like the most compelling demonic case, or I'm sorry, but like haunting possession case because of just how involved it is in like the legal system. All these like legal officials who had to claim they saw something. He bought that house, right? And he made a documentary called Demon House. And I don't like Zach Baggins or Ghost Adventures, but that I was like following that case in real time when it was happening when I was in college. I was like, fuck. When I heard about it, I'm like, I'm gonna have to rent this fucking movie. Because at the time it came out, you had to rent it. It was like $9.99. And I was like, fuck. And like people were claiming, like the early reviews, like there's crazy shit in this. And I then watched a 2-hour-long movie where the first hour and a half was him questioning a bunch of people, him constantly talking to this priest who was like, I want to go in that house. And they're like, well, I mean, you can go in if I give you some holy water. Well, who knows what it is? I exorcised them. It's like, what? They're like weird shit. Then like weird, like people in the house being like him and his crew, like being like weird during the daylight. And then the last 10 minutes, him like, I'm going to spend the night in the house of this demon and make it where I can't escape, but neither can it. And so he had everybody plywood up all the doors and windows. He was there for like 10 minutes, screamed that the ghost was after him or something, and then they had to break him out. And then he claimed he had that weird eye stigmatism where he's got to wear Coke bottle glasses now.
Yeah.
It was like, I got done with that movie and I was like, what the fuck did I just watch? Oh, you watched it too, Jeff?
Yeah.
It was like,
it was ridiculous. Like it was the stupidest thing. Yeah, it was so crazy. Like,
which is crazy considering that probably I would say maybe the most clear-cut evidence that something happened when you have like people from like Child Youth and Services who are testing to seeing like these paranormal events, doctors and nurses in a hospital having to attest in like this paperwork that they saw these events. And it's like almost like in the Dark Knight, Zach Baggins wasn't the hero we needed, but he was the one we deserved.
Yeah, he was the one we deserved.
Because like for the first time, like if this would have been handled right, maybe something could have been found out, and instead we got that fucking idiot. And then after it was done, he had them tear the house down, so now no one can ever look at it again.
Yeah.
He had them fucking bulldoze it down. Except for he kept the door frame or something. It's in his like shitty museum in Vegas.
I think after the documentary came out, I think that's when Bilbo and Frodo got together and said enough is enough and came out publicly and disowned him. That's why he had to change his last name.
It's like
the spelling of his last name.
He's like, we can't support cousin Zach Baggins. First off, I don't like that you tied this clown to Lord of the Rings. I don't appreciate it.
Just saying.
I don't appreciate it. But yeah.
He's definitely the lesser Baggins. I'll put it that way.
Oh, for sure.
He's the donkey lady of the Baggins clan.
Yeah. I will never say a bad thing about donkey lady. You can't make me. You can't make me. I'm still, if I could find a donkey lady t-shirt, I'd wear it every day.
I'll make you one, but you won't like it.
I don't want you to make it. You won't put the respect it deserves.
That's exactly right.
But hey, as we wrap up here, I just got to ask you two. Do you think something happened in the Amityville house?
No.
Yes.
Absolutely not. Well, something happened, but had nothing to do with ghosts.
What do you think it was?
It was
radon.
A lot of delusions and
lead paint, radon.
I mean, the fact that no one ever thought to test that green ooze to see if it was like mold or some shit.
Yeah.
You believe, Dave?
I believe what? I believe something happened there. I think obviously some people were violently murdered there.
Of course.
That definitely happened.
For sure.
I think that there was more mental health concerns than paranormal concerns that were substance abuse. I mean, it happened at the height of drug abuse and
that's true. They were coming out of the 60s and the 70s, and
we know the guy's not right even now. Or
he died. He died in 2021.
Yeah.
Yep. He was serving life.
Yeah, but things happen tragically. Terrible things happen there. I don't think Boogeyman was involved. No.
All I'm going to say is, but do you think the Warrens would have showed up if there wasn't something happening?
Yes.
Dave, they fought a werewolf.
No, they didn't. That's the problem. He had to pay to take himself to the Warrens.
That is true.
They couldn't do anything with him.
And I'm pretty sure if you read the story, I don't think the exorcism was successful, and so they just sent him back.
Exactly.
They're just like,
have a good trip. By the way,
we tried. Because I think at one point, they're like, he ran out the back door barking like a dog into the woods, and then like they wrangled him back in the house. Tried again. They're just like, fuck it, man.
That's the tragedy. And I know Jamie's not here, but on behalf of my friend Jamie, the reason she hates them so much is they so often put themselves in the middle of real mental health concerns, real people struggling with real stuff, and then made up these fantastical stories and did more harm than good of trying to help these people.
Use it to make some money. Well,
it's funny you said. One more little quip about them. I know we're kind of going where we go, but the first time in legal U.S. modern history that someone tried to use "the devil made me do it" defense was a case tied to the Warrens. The Conjuring 3 is the one the Conjuring 3 is based on, but the guy murdered somebody, and the Warrens like, the devil made him do it. So much so that like the day that he was arrested for murdering his boss, Lorraine had a vision, called into the police station. It was like, hey, I know you arrested him, but he's possessed. So you need to let people know, like, he's possessed. So be careful.
Yeah,
but,
by the way,
he didn't actually do it. Like, the devil made him do it. And like they were working with his lawyer, and like they were building up this thing. And like Ed and Lorraine, and like they had like priests and like other professionals, they called them, that when the trial started, they were like, we're going to go in there, talk to the judge, like this is why I have to do it. And the judge would not even see them nor allow them in court.
Well, and I watched the documentary about that because it's a pretty compelling story. Because the tragedy there is there's a family involved, like young kids that were dealing with some of this stuff. But the guy who actually killed somebody, what they don't leave out of that story is that he had been drinking and dropping acid and doing drugs with the boss for the last 8 hours before he decided to peel his head off.
Yeah.
Because that really doesn't add anything to the story, right?
Well, no, Dave. It's just, if you think about, like, demons don't care about drugs, so like, why even talk about it?
Exactly, it's a non-starter. Yeah,
all that matters is like the little boy was possessed, his girlfriend's little brother, and he told that demon to come in him.
Yeah,
so that's all that matters. I still think the craziest thing was like Lorraine was still like helping them write these stories and stuff up till she died. Why they brought that fucking nun in, which was never a case.
Exactly.
I don't even know where that came from.
Because Hollywood is the new Ed and Lorraine Warren.
That's true.
They're going to make up their own story anyway. So,
especially
kind of cool looking image.
Especially considering Lorraine was going to be a nun, but then she had a vision that she had to get pregnant, and she had a very short time to get pregnant. So, like, while she was like, I think she just started seminary school. That's when she met Ed, who was a bus driver who just got drafted to World War II. And he very quickly, like, bloop, bloop. And then he went overseas. And then came back, became a bus driver again. But he was like, I think it's time we start fighting demons. She was like, makes sense.
Can you imagine riding the Ed Warren city bus to work each morning?
Like, oh my God, yeah.
Just having to deal with the stories. that he's telling you. You're just, it's a Monday morning, 6:00 in the morning. You're going to your dead end job. You don't care. And there's Ed Warren there telling you about all of the ways that he's saving humanity from the rising demons.
Did you ever
Ed, shut up and drive.
Did you ever watch an interview with him, Dave? Like hear his voice?
No.
Did you watch The Sopranos?
Yeah.
You know how towards the end of the series, like as the series went on, Tony's voice got more stereotypical gangster.
It's so much started talking like this.
Yeah, like the last season. That's how Ed talked, but it was like higher pitch.
Oh my gosh.
And he was like, I would just walk to work. Them demons. And it's just like, what the fuck?
I would either quit or walk to work.
You just get off the bus. Yeah. It's Connecticut. There's 4 feet of snow. You're like, fuck it.
This is my stop.
Just let me I'm walking.
Hey, you're still 10 miles from work.
I didn't tell you the story about the demon I took. Gotta go, Ed. Got to go.
Yeah. And then you just like turn around, like Lorraine and her little baby body and baby head just staying there. She's like, I see a demon in you.
This bus is evil. Evil.
I think, you know what? I think we could do this. We could go.
What, drive a bus?
Well, no,
it'd be a stretch, but we could pull it off.
But I think we could go to people and be like, "Hey, we'll help you investigate these demons and ghosts." I'm like, listen, Jeff has fought demons. Tell him about your pant leg, Jeff. Tell him when the demon ripped your pant leg off.
Possessed genes.
His genes were possessed.
Yep.
Battled and won.
He had to tear his own pant leg off. Do you know how difficult that was?
It's crazy.
We can do the Warren thing too when people say that their house is haunted. Well, if you fly to us, we'll check you out.
Listen, if it was continental US, they would drive, but like they're like, well, the house isn't haunted, it's the guy, so you just come here. Which is also weird because they had a young child. And they're like, this guy like beat people up, cops had to arrest him. Yeah, just come to our house, we'll take care of it.
My recommendation would be, just like we've talked in the past with our paranormal activity investigation show that we pitched, is I love the concept of us spending half of the episode planning for the show or planning for the investigation. Like, we're going to go to the demon house in Gary, Indiana. This is the equipment we're going to take. This is the scientific measurements we're going to take to make sure that we quantify, not just qualify, the data that we get in. And then the second half of the episode is us getting back in front of the camera and saying, look, this is why it didn't work out. We didn't have the tickets that we needed. Jeff was feeling a little under the weather. We're just kind of explaining why we didn't actually
forgot the car seat with picture of baby Jesus. So like, we weren't protected.
We need some more people to buy our merchandise.
Yeah, like we didn't have enough money. It's a shame, but like
I love that show. Like just the whole, we're not going anywhere, but we're gonna tell you what we
tell you why.
Or like in one episode we finally actually make it to like the yard of the house, and then one of us is like, it's allergy season.
Yeah. I twisted my ankle
in that house.
Yeah. I stepped off the sidewalk on the way to the bus.
But Jeff, you could be the psychic. You can be like, I feel something evil in the house. It's telling us not to go in. You're like that priest. Oh man. Because Jeff just be like priest, he's like, I feel something. It's telling us we can't go in there. So
I would love to see Jeff in a priest's robe and a beehive hairdo at the same
time. Oh man. I'll tell you,
and he has to use the Sheila voice the whole time. Not today, demon.
Not today, demon.
You like tell me, sorry, you shit out of luck.
You shit out of luck, demons.
Doesn't want to sit there.
I may go down, but it's not the way you want me to.
Oh. I didn't like that. Hey, Dave, I'm trying to find folks about the Wicked Wild.
That's really the note you want to end on?
Yeah, it sure is.
Well,
you did it to yourself.
Listening. I sure did. Thanks for listening. If you want to follow us on social media, you can do that on X at Wicked While We Are, / the horror only community at Wicked While We Are, or on Instagram at Wicked Wild Pod. If you want to learn more about the show, you can go to our website, thewickedwild.com. We'd love to have your reviews, comments, any feedback we'd love to have as well. You can send me an email if you want to, podcast@thewickedwild.com.
Nice. And remember, fine folks, if you ever find yourself in the middle of a haunted house, And if anybody shows up and goes, hey, we can help you, we'll charge you a dime. Can we have the rights to your life story? I'll think about it for a moment. I would think about him for a moment. And also, if you ask a priest to bless your house, he only goes to one room and says, nothing I can do here, just don't sleep there. Maybe just move.
Get a better priest.
Yeah, or find a better priest. That probably, you know, maybe that guy wasn't even a priest. They're just exactly. Like, they called the wrong number. This guy was like, no, I can go down there and make $50. Bye.